it kind of reminds me of like when your eyes are too big for your stomach.
Mm. No, that's so
Yeah.
true. Holy
Yeah.
cow,
Oh
that's
my
true.
gosh, yes. Oh, I did that exact same thing.
No way.
So
I did
I
that
was like,
exact same thing.
and I looked over at Max and I said, what if I don't want to keep writing this story?
I'm loving my discovery writing, like kind of figuring out where things are going right now. But I'm running into the problem with discovery writing a mystery. Hi, I'm Max.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Leisha.
Plot hole.
Said I'd write one chapter, wrote none.
I'm sorry, you do what?
I changed the ending again.
3 writers.
Countless blueprints.
Infinite stories. And now, into the story. Now that we've hit our monumental episode 10, we want to take this as an opportunity to check in on each of us when it comes to our writing journey, our current works in progress, and just touching base. So, who would like to go first, talking a little bit about where you're at currently in your writing process?
Okay. I'll go first on this one. I am currently in the outlining part of my book, which is funny because I've talked about like scenes and chapters that I've written in my book, previously. But I just kind of felt like after writing a handful of chapters, I kind of not necessarily wrote myself into a corner, but like wrote myself into a, oh crap, what's next? What happens after this? And so I decided that I was actually going to fully outline my book, not like crazy like how we've identified the architects do, but I'm more just doing like a chapter by chapter outline of like, okay, what's going to happen in this chapter? What's going to happen in this chapter? How are we going to lead up to this event, and this event? So I have like 2 outlines. One is my general outline. Here's, where I want my story to go. Here are the really big plot points that I want to hit at some point. Here's the climax. Here's the ending. And then the outline that I'm currently working on is my chapter by chapter outline. Because we've talked about in the past how we feel that sometimes writing the middle is really hard because you have a really great idea for a start to a story, a really great idea for a way for a story to end, but getting there often feels like the struggle. And that's kind of what I'm going through right now. And so that's why I was like, okay, I actually need to understand where my story is headed and why. And so I have paused with the actual story writing and am now re-outlining the book right now.
It's funny that you say that because the more that I've thought about like that being something that we talked about, in the very beginning of that being kind of an obstacle for all of us at one time or another, it kind of reminds me of like when your eyes are too big for your stomach.
Mm. No, that's so
Yeah.
true. Holy
Yeah.
cow,
Oh my
true.
gosh, yes.
That's like the perfect metaphor.
You're taking way
Yeah.
too big of a bite to even like attempt to chew.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you order like a bunch of things in like, in the story sense, you want to do all these things and you finish the first thing and you're like, I can't keep eating. Like
Yeah.
I'm stuffed.
I can't keep eating.
Like,
I can't keep writing. There it is. There's the connection.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I definitely can relate to that in a lot of ways, and I've been kind of in a similar spot. So I this happened on Wednesday. It's now Saturday. We had a really great evening as a family, and we were pulling into the driveway after this drive that we took. And I looked over at Max and I said, what if I don't want to keep writing this story?" And the way that I phrased it at that time, Max definitely thought I meant like I was done, period. Like I didn't want to continue at all. And so he immediately jumped on it and was like, "No, you have to keep going. You have to keep writing." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. You misunderstood." So I've had this idea for a series, and the plan is to be able to write this 3-book series. I know where each book is going. I know all the characters that are going to be involved. I know each trope that's going to be in each book. And mind you, as most people are probably familiar with at this point, the book that I've been writing is kind of like it's a contemporary romance, but there's Regency elements to it. And my main character, ultimately experiences this pretty traumatic event when her house floods. and she has a flashback to something that happened when she was younger. I have been losing so much steam on the writing because I've gotten really discouraged because I don't love where it's going. So this is something that I've battled with a lot. I also kept finding myself asking myself, is this really what I want to try to write for the first book? So I kept asking myself that question over the last couple of weeks. I've still been writing and I've been doing a pretty good job, but I just haven't been happy with anything that's been coming out, which I think is something that I battle with. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But what that has meant is I have actually decided that the book that I thought was going to be book two will now be book one.
Oh, I did that exact same thing.
No way!
So
I did that
I'm like,
exact same thing.
it felt so bad in the moment when I had to make the choice, but then like I've been sitting down and writing, especially today, and it has come so much easier, so much smoother, and I feel so much happier with the results.
So the scene that she sent you today, Drew.
That's the
Yeah.
prologue for book two. Now one.
Okay. That's a
That's
prologue?
completely different.
Yeah.
Oh, that was gut
Pretty
wrenching.
brutal.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
tough.
brutal. But that seems to be the case with all of our stories.
I
The
know.
beginning is brutal.
We all just like to make our
Killing
characters
Garland.
suffer.
So I'm also in a weird spot with my story, but more so in I'm loving my discovery writing, like kind of figuring out where things are going right now. But I'm running into the problem with discovery writing a mystery, which is
Yeah.
how do I how do I lay the plans for like the ultimate like solution or the ultimate like mystery being solved now? So I figured out a couple things. Like I'm just starting to just basically put in obvious clues, people's names, initials, strange documents and everything. And I'm hoping to build a mystery like through that, and then during the revision process is clean that up. That's my current idea of what I want to happen. Is I actually don't want to focus on clues as much. I got hung up on them a lot this week.
Mhm.
I only got like a couple hundred words written during the week because every time I went to go write, I got stuck at the. It was basically my main character was snooping in an office, and I could not figure out what the piece of paper was in front of him, and I just kept going back to it over and over again until today. I was just like, I'm just gonna come up with some generic stuff to fill in there, and keep going from there.
Mhm.
So, um, that's where I'm currently at is trying to write the fantasy mystery. I'm trying to emphasize, at least on this first write through, the first draft, emphasize characters, emphasize kind of how things are going. I am a little worried about my main character currently. He's getting a little bit silly at times. I'm not sure. I want him to be some kind of like, you know, his tone of voice is a little bit like facetious, and he makes like a lot of like jokes, and he talks in riddles sometimes. And then when he's serious, he's very serious, and I want that to be a pretty drastic shift. Is when he's serious, like he means things. But I'm a little worried he's a little bit silly, so we'll see how that evolves. And I'm definitely gonna have to come back and revise some of the early chapters. But that's what I want right now. Is my journey right now is just seeing the gardening process unfold because like you, Drew, I used to write out every chapter outline. I used to do this like basically long like stream of consciousness document where I was just it was one long run-on sentence for like thousands of words of just this is what happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happens, and this happened, this happens. And so I do every play by play, and when I went to go write it, I couldn't do it. So I always take things to quite extremes. So right now I'm trying to just let it come and not worry too much about.
Well, so something
Uh,
something with that, I feel like we're all kind of still in the middle of discovering our process right now.
sure.
And I think it's okay to like to try out those extremes so that way you can know, okay, I like these aspects of this writing style. I like these aspects of this other writing style. Let's now that we, are moving forward, let's mash them together for the rest of the book and see how that goes. I think we I think all of us are a little bit too hard on ourselves because we're ambitious, we want to accomplish things, but we're also all like still amateur working on getting our first published works done writers.
You said perfectionist wrong.
you're you're right.
Pronounced.
Pronounced
I
perfectionist.
pronounced perfectionist wrong. True. Yeah. So I feel like it's okay to like try out those extremes.
I think the first question that I have for you guys, especially like now that we kind of have a good idea where each of us are currently, obviously something we've been talking about a lot this week is feedback. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is the feedback at this like current point in your process that you're hoping to get from the other two, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I can start with this one. When we first started, I was posting and sharing like full on like scenes and chapters with you guys, and there was certain like ones that like I got a big boost of confidence there from, like Drew's obsession with the old man in chapter 1 of my book.
True.
But which is so funny. Every time I go back to look at the first chapter, I think about that. But I think I've moved on to more. I don't want to share as much like full on like scenes with you guys as much as I'm like wanting to describe things. You say, hey, this is where I'm trying to think about this scene or this, whatever I'm working with. How would you guys go about that? Or what, just basically asking for advice point blank rather than showing you what I've already done. So that's where I'm at least.
I think for me, I just want to know that my story makes sense, that it's readable, and you can actually follow what's happening. I think that's kind of where I'm at right now in terms of the feedback that I'm wanting. I just want to know that you guys are following the story and the things that I'm saying are actually creating a story, both, practically and also in your mind. I want to know how you guys are feeling when you read my stuff. More so because I I often am in trying to portray a certain set of emotions or state of minds when I'm writing, and I want to know that like, when you guys are reading it, you're somewhere in that realm. So that
Mhm.
way I can know, okay, am I is this hitting correctly? Are
Yeah.
people understanding the story one, and then are they feeling something akin to what I felt when I wrote it and how I wanted other people to feel when I wrote it?
I think I'm definitely in that same spot of just wanting to make sure that my writing makes sense and that like you guys are able to catch things that I might be missing. Because sometimes, like, especially when I'm going through a scene, I will get through the scene and I'll try to write it as quickly as possible. And then I realize, like, when I go back and read through it, try to proofread a little bit ahead of time, even though I know the majority of that's going to be done at the end. Sometimes I realize that I am missing things, but I don't catch everything. It's like sometimes you look at something for too long and it all just kind of blurs together. So sometimes it's nice to have a fresh pair of eyes, take a look at things and make sure things make sense. Does the dialogue work for this particular character? Is there something that I'm missing when it comes to like portraying the tone of that particular scene? I think those are mostly the things that I'm trying to, I think, get from you guys, which I feel like I've gotten a really good amount of that. Um, I loved that. So I actually sent Drew the prologue to book 2 earlier, and well, it was after I had Max read it, and then he said, "Why don't you send that one to Drew?" So I went ahead and emailed it over, and Drew left one comment at the very top of the chapter. just describing how the chapter made him feel. And I love that approach when it comes to just providing feedback, because I think something that all of us, I think, struggle with from time to time is that we struggle to switch between reader brain and writer brain, where as a reader, like, you may like things that you wouldn't like to write yourself. However, on the flip side, when you're reading something but you still have your writer brain on, sometimes you want to insert your voice into whatever it is that you're reading. And so I think we've all battled that at one time or another. What are your guys's, like, I guess, takes on that?
So I have a very specific example of this. Actually, when I was reading your prologue today, there was a part that I read, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I remember reading it and thinking, oh, that was quick, or something like that. And I like, before I even kept reading to figure out the rest of the context, I like popped open a comment chat bubble, and I was just gonna immediately start being like, ooh, I think you should definitely like draw this part of the scene out. Really, do this, and this. And then I was like, okay, whoa. Yeah, I had to take my hands off the keyboard and be like, okay, is Leisha asking me to tell her what to do with her story? No, that's not what's happening here. Also, by the way, I kept reading and I got the context that I was looking for, so it was fine. And
the reader brain, actually. Wow.
and so I just was like, okay, you know what? I need to chill out. And then I just need to focus on, like, I'm reading this for the first time as a reader. What is going through my brain as someone who is experiencing this for enjoyment and entertainment, not for to give critical feedback or whatever, or give grammatical feedback or anything. Like, I'm like, okay, let's reread this with I'm just enjoying this story. This is a book that I'm sitting down at the end of the day to enjoy and read. And then let's provide the feedback on how I feel about it and what were some of my takeaways. And I feel like once I did that, I feel happy with the feedback that I was able to give, is what I'll say.
Oh yeah, and I was definitely happy with the feedback that I got, because I think that's I think what I want from people who read what I write is, how does it make them feel? Like, does it make them feel something? Does it make them think something? Because, like, while I think feedback inherently, like, is kind of like an autopsy of the things that we write, I think there are times where we realize that the feedback we're getting, I mean, I think of feedback in general as something that you can take what you need, leave what you don't. But I think as a writer, it's really easy to kind of fall or follow the whim of your audience and what you think they want, as opposed to what you feel is right for what you're trying to tell, like what story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, and I think a important part of feedback is just our intentions going into it. Like, this is why I think it's good for us to have this kind of episode every so often, and for us to meet together as a writing group and actually, like, describe what it is that we want to get out of our feedback. Sometimes I think it's even on a case by case basis, though. Like today, Leisha showed me, she had read me a scene, and then she showed me a version of the scene she had written like months ago, and she asked which one I liked better. And I said I like, and because of that, I was given that direction. I was able to go a little bit more critical and saying, I liked this part of the scene. I liked this part of the scene. I think you would do good to put them together. And she agreed. For the most part. Yeah. So, but I think even by case basis, because we're gonna evolve on what we feel like we need. At the moment, I don't feel like I want to stop and ask you guys to read full chapter. Does this make sense to me, or does this, right for the character, whatever. I want to come back to that later on in the revision process.
For sure.
Um, but if that's what you guys need now, that's fine. I've had writing training, so I've had that in the past as well. So I've also overcome a lot of the not overcome actually. Sorry, I've experienced a lot of the hurdles that we were talking about earlier too about outlining and other things too. I've tried the things that don't work, and so I'm a little bit in a different spot.
I mean, that's also to say that things that don't work for you aren't things that are necessarily also not going to work for myself and Drew.
Exactly. Yes.
So I think that that's something that we also have to keep in mind. I think experience also plays a role, I think, in how all of us kind of feel coming to each other with things. But I think that sometimes we can't let those things get in the way of us being able to use our writing as a way to connect, which I think is a challenge when it comes to a writing group because, mind you, we're all writing very different stories. So when it comes to like the genre aspect of what we're writing, there's very little, if any, overlap. Like you and Drew may be writing fantasy stories, but the material within those stories, the settings, the challenges and conflicts that your characters are facing are extremely different. So I think that sometimes we have to be so aware of how sometimes our feedback needs to keep in mind that they're different for a reason and that what myself as a contemporary romance author might be wanting to portray or set out to do while writing a story. If I'm reading Max's story, I have to decide to put on like a cap for Max's story, Max's writing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, something that I just really enjoy about our writing group in general is how supportive it feels like we are of each other. And I mean, again, this doesn't happen to us in our writing group, but it does seem to be a problem that I see when I'm reading about other people talk about their writing groups. It's kind of the crabs in a bucket metaphor where someone in the group is starting to make progress or starting to write something that's like actually really good, and then and then the like the jealousy comes out, and the the spitefulness comes out, and just like, well, I mean, getting published is actually really hard. Most people don't actually get published, and it's just like, okay, if you're going to be in a writing group where other people are going to be sharing part of what is essentially going through their mind, writing and having people read your writing feels almost like a really, really like intimate process. And I don't feel like it's okay to be trying to bring other authors down because you're not as motivated as they are, or you're not getting as much done as they are. Have you guys like seen that or experienced that with other writing groups?
I think I haven't experienced this with any other writing groups because this is my first writing group, I would say. I mean, that's kind of a lie. I think in high school, like I definitely had friends who were also writing things, but so it's actually really funny. I promise this is going to connect. For work, I've been reading this book, The Culture Code, and one of the first talks about in the book is like they do this exercise with like I want to say it's a group of kindergartners and then it's a group of like CEOs, like head honcho type people, and they're tasked to build the tallest tower they possibly can using dry spaghetti noodles and marshmallows. And mind you, every single time they replicated this project, kindergartners were able to build a taller tower on average every single time. And so, one of the things that they were able to recognize as a result of that is the reason why the CEOs were never able to build a taller tower. And they also replicated this with, mind you, like lawyers, doctors, um, head executives, all this kind of stuff. The reason that they were never able to achieve it is because when you're in settings like that with people who are experienced in that way, they have a lot of fear about what other people think of them. So they may not be willing to share what they think. So there's kind of like this boundary between those groups of people. Whereas if you look at a group of kindergartners, they do not care what the next kindergartner thinks about them. They just want to build a cool tower. And so, what I loved about that exercise and what I think I have applied when it comes to writing groups is that, and what I've tried to apply here is like not being afraid to be myself.
Yeah.
And I think that unfortunately, when you look at writing groups like that, like where, there's kind of this culture within the writing world where if like if unless you've met these specific standards, you're not a successful writer. That's definitely giving crabs in a bucket. Like you're like by being that person that puts someone down in that particular situation, you are not only ensuring that they'll never succeed, but you are never going to be able to push past it either. So I think that that's something that I have recognized, but I've been very intentional about avoiding.
I think I can give a little bit of insight into like our writing education about how the crabs in a bucket comes from the people teaching too. There was definitely a common theme in a lot of English, like college level English classes, is the idea of literature writing versus fiction or for fun writing. A lot of times, like the books you'd read and the authors you talk about and everything, they're considered like classically good and classically important, and that's great. And they have their own spot. And I took a whole class about Hemingway. I love Hemingway's writing. I think it's great. Hemingway's a person, not a great person, but anyway. I saw a lot of times, even in the creative writing classes, that people would discourage writing about fantasy or writing about genre. They called it genre fiction, is what they called it. They discourage it a lot, and I know some of the intentions were to get people to write about characters, not about plots. Um, and I only had one or two teachers that really kind of actually got that point across where they wanted you to write whatever you wanted to write, but emphasizing important story elements like character because they felt that character driven stories were stronger. And that was great. But it was really difficult to see like so many people who are encouraged and excited, including myself, about writing quote unquote genre fiction, and that being trying the emphasis that they had about trying to put that out of us in writing literature. And I noticed like my writing got stronger in some ways, but a lot of it was like dispassionately written. It was not what I was wanting to write as much. I got some cool ideas out of it for sure, and I found a love for like poetry as well through that. But for a while, I put my novel writing ideas on the back burner because I felt like it was not correct. Um, One other quick story: I entered a writing competition when I was a senior in high school, um, and it was some big competition held in Boston, and so I submitted to it and everything, and I wanted to write something that would win. And so I tried to write like this fantasy, but like very literature kind of style fantasy with like a lot of like deep ideas or whatever. The point of it was what I wrote was terrible. It was awful. But I tried to write it for somebody else, and that's what I do love about our writing group now is that we are writing for ourselves. That's kind of the basis of our writing group. That's the basis of this podcast. Is we are writing for ourselves, and I think that's great.
That deserves some poetry snaps.
That was
I'm gonna rant.
beautiful. So you're the only one here who like has a formal education in creative writing. So it's but like you laugh, but like genuinely it's so like refreshing to hear that you're like, oh yeah, no, the there's some writing styles or genres or whatever that are discouraged professionally, but I'm like, I feel like with the average reader, those genres do fine.
And to the average reader, I mean, they don't care where the person was trained at the end of the day. Like they care about
Is the story
characters.
good?
They care
Yeah.
about is the story good? Yeah. They care about a setting and a plot and is it going to entertain me for the next 12, 15 hours, whatever.
Hey writer friends, quick pause from the storytelling spiral to say, if you're loving the Word Builders, come be a part of the chaos behind the mic. We're hanging out on Instagram and YouTube at The Word Builders, sharing behind the scenes bits, writing prompts, and very questionable memes about the writing process. Hit follow, drop a comment, and let us know what you're building. We're probably cheering you on in the replies. Alright, back to the episode.
Drew had brought up this situation earlier because we were talking about crabs in a bucket, but we also wanted to talk about the inverse. So, Drew, can you tell us a little bit about fire ants growing up in Arizona?
It's a great way to just preface this.
Can you tell us about fire ants? Is such an incredible way to introduce this. Growing up in Arizona, there's ants everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the most popular kind of ant that I saw was just your run of the mill fire ant. Well, there is
the most popular ant. Do people keep them as pets?
Sorry. The most common ant that I saw was fire ants, I guess I should say. But also, yes, ant colonies are really popular all over the world. But I had a lot of friends who had ant colonies.
Really?
I asked my mom for one time actually, and she said under zero circumstances would I get an ant colony, because I'm a pretty clumsy person, and so she was like,
"Oh my god,
if you drop that and it breaks in our home." Yeah, so needless to say, I did not get an ant terrarium thing. Anyways, during flooding season in Southwest America, there's like a monsoon season. It's just like, I don't know, 1 or 2 months where it just rains a ton and the area is prone to flash flooding. Fire ants have adapted this like really cool survival trait where whenever rapid flooding does occur, the colony will all like link arms and form like a raft made out of their bodies, so that way they can float above the flood and survive. That's the the idea here is we want to be fire ants in a flood, okay? We all
not crabs in a bucket.
Not crabs in a bucket. We want to be fire ants in a flood. We all want to be like, okay, we're going to help each other rise above the mess that is the flood, right? We want to help each other rise above self-doubt and hurtful things that come from outside of ourselves. I mean, as writers, I feel like in order to be a writer, you have to just be like super self-critical. Like I don't know of any writers, at least, that aren't just like always in their head about their writing and stuff. But it's the job of a writing group to link arms with your fellow writers and help them overcome some of those things.
Yeah, I think in a similar vein, I think to be a writer, you also have to develop a pretty strong backbone too. You have to be willing to withstand the lot, and that can be pushback from yourself. Max and I have talked about rejection quite a bit, and just kind of what that's looked like, throughout our lives. And mind you, this isn't a skill that I would say is something that all successful writers need. I think that there's a balance where you have to be strong enough to withstand the flood, but there's also needing to be flexible enough to understand when you might be one of those crabs in the bucket, whether it's for yourself or for other writers. So I think, something that kind of comes to mind is obviously throughout a lot of this podcast, we've talked so much about other people's stories and the things that we thought were good, the things that we thought were bad, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, like, one of the things we recognize is that many of these stories are vastly successful for a variety of reasons. and we look at things very differently with our writer brains versus our reader brains. But I think something that we can all appreciate is, given the chance, we would probably link arms with people that we wouldn't necessarily relate to on a writing level. But because we support, I think, the craft, the art itself, I think that in and of itself, I think, is the key component to being a proponent of it. So I kind of wanted to shift a little bit more into some of the things that have currently been inspiring us as writers, because I know that there's a whole lot out there. And also, Drew mentioned something that I really, 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 really can't wait to talk about. So,
Do you just want to start with that then? Just yeah, just send it.
No segue.
Wait. Actually, I have one last thing to say about the fire ants thing.
Okay.
I think one of the things that, like, at least in our specific writing group, that helped us to link arms recently was the jokes about who's winning this week in the word count. Making it like a competition, even if it's just a competition between me and Drew to not be last place.
True.
I feel like I've gotten more writing done because of it. Like I'm like, oh, the podcast is tomorrow, or it's later today. I'm gonna write, and like that's pretty cool, I think.
I also thought of a
instead of
punishment
hearing-
recently that is related to what we're going to talk about in a second.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
oh no. Okay, well, you can bring it up during the weekly word count then,
Okay.
because you're gonna do it. I'm just kidding.
I know, it's so bad.
Okay, so now back to inspiration. Drew, what are we inspired by this week?
Bro, I am so inspired by K-pop Demon Hunters, bro. Oh
Yes!
my gosh. Oh, dude, the music is incredible. Dude, it's wonderful. Okay. For real though, like everybody talks about the music being like really, really great in that show. And as much as I have been listening to the music on repeat since I watched it, it's actually not even the music that's inspiring with my writing. That's inspiring me with my writing right now. It's the aspects of the demons that we get to know in that show, including Rumi.
Okay.
The thing that has been inspiring me specifically is like these people became demons to either fulfill like some selfish desire or some need that they had, or both in the case of Jinu, right?
Yeah.
But it's the way that Guima is like always in their ear, like, you can't do this, you're not good enough, and seeing how it affects everybody towards the end of the movie, like everybody is like temporarily giving into that self-doubt, and then having Rumi and then the other two, oh my gosh, Zoe and
Kira.
thank you, having them all come together and like bring everybody kind of out of it. It makes me realize like a couple of things, like, okay, to be human is to experience like self-doubt and moments where your inner demon is like, yeah, you're not good enough, you're not going to accomplish those things. But then another aspect of being human is figuring out a way to overcome that, and that is what has been inspiring me so much recently from that movie.
Another great part about the voices in the head is that, if you notice, like, most of the time the voices are their own voices.
Yes.
Like, even though we know it's from Guima, but like, that's just, I think that's a cool aspect. We watch this movie about once a day. So we're big fans. Our 2-year-old, or almost 2-year-old, loves it too. He sings the songs.
That's impressive, honestly.
Yeah, when in like Golden, when they go up, up, up,
Yeah.
he like said that like very clearly. Like,
Nice.
second time he watched it.
Dude.
So
Gonna be a K-pop idol, your son? That'd be sick.
Would be pretty sick.
except that the
Except
boys,
he's-
I don't want him to be a demon though.
He's also not Korean.
He's also not Korean. That
Okay.
also does not. It's kind of an important aspect.
I guess that's
or
fair.
at least being able to speak Korean.
You could be in a boy band then.
Can we also just talk about the fact that Korean sounds so good with English, and I can't even explain it.
Actually, you know what's funny is that today I've been inspired by trying to fit like pop culture references into my story at random moments. I talked about earlier how I'm worried that my main character is getting a little bit silly. Just some of the things he's been saying and doing. He has like this kind of hard to follow, hard to read personality, and then when he's serious, it's very clear, very serious, very cut and dry. That's the kind of shift I want for his personality. The things he takes very seriously. Everything else is kind of free game. And I'm currently kind of leaning into it a little bit just to get it out there. And today, one of the things I got inspired by was just writing in small references to pop culture stuff. For example, one of them is I had these two security guards talking to him, and I was trying to describe them, and I realized that they were looking like. Drew, have you ever played or seen gameplay of Gears of War?
Yeah.
You know how like all the Gears characters are like these incredibly huge muscular guys with like super thick muscular necks?
Yeah.
That's how I tried to describe them, but in like a fantasy, like Victorian era fantasy style. So
If you carried like a 50-pound kit, your neck would probably look the same.
yeah, it's probably true. But so I was like trying to describe it and everything in a way because Laisha loves those games. So I was like, man, I gotta fit in a little reference for Laisha here. And then the last thing I wrote today, is the character gets tackled by the security guards, and as he's being tackled, he is talking about how he's not late. He arrives precisely when he intends to, which is
Yeah.
what Gandalf says at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. So, but he gets cut off halfway through the sentence, and so it doesn't actually finish the reference too. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm just trying to like fit in like little references to keep me entertained. I think that's what my inspiration is pushing me towards lately. Is just how do I keep myself on the writing path? Right now, I gotta feed my monkey brain. I gotta be entertained.
This is actually something that Drew mentioned this last week, that he's recently taken into account as like a form of inspiration. Something that I've done for a very long time is I love playlists, and I've always made them. Max's is probably honestly the playlist that I've been working on the longest, for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, and mind you, like every playlist is a little bit different. Sometimes they have different themes or so on and so forth. But I've created playlists for the couples in my books, in the 3 books that I'm planning. And this last week, I've been on a huge like new music discovery. Haley Williams released a solo album, and it's a bunch of singles, but they're incredible. And I've loved kind of digging into each of the songs. And there's one song on the album. It's called "I Won't Quit on You," and I adore that song. I think I love the message of just like let me pull up the lyrics really quick. My favorite lyrics are probably from the chorus. It's "Come hell or heaven, angels or devils, I won't move, and I don't care what happens after, I won't quit on you." And basically throughout the song, she's talking about like her and this other person are both stranded on Mars. And it's kind of miraculous that they're both there at the same time. And mind you, like those are pretty harsh conditions to live in. And obviously, throughout any relationship, you experience a lot of turmoil, conflict. It's not all sunshine and rainbows as much as we want it to be. But I think, the overall message. And that's something that I think I'm trying to portray in the second book. And so I felt like that was, I think, the turning point for me of just realizing what I really wanted to do and that I could just go for it. And I have a similar relationship with my writing. Like, I don't want to give up on it because I think throughout my life, I've given up on a lot of stories. Like, I am notorious for not finishing stories. A big aspect of it is because I pretty much beat myself up and crawl into my own bucket when it comes to getting that story across. And so if it doesn't look 100% good to me, I'm going to abandon all hope. But I think it was such a great reminder and has just been like something that's been helping me kind of get through. So I think going through all the new music that I've been able to find throughout this week has been a great source of inspiration.
Okay, talking about music, the Alex Warren recently released a song. You guys know who Alex Warren is?
Yes.
Okay. He recently released a song called Eternity. That song is my like main antagonist theme song. It is perfect. And as I listened to that song and I was like, okay, Leisha knows what she's talking about. I'm making an album for this character because this song is just like, it's so perfectly heartbreaking that I have to put it in here. The lyrics specifically is oh how long has it been? I don't know, but it feels like an eternity since I had you here with me, since I had to learn to be someone you don't know, to be with you in paradise, what I wouldn't sacrifice. Why do you have to chase the light somewhere I can't go? And I just was like this character is sacrificing so much to achieve what he truly believes in, and the people that are closest to him go leave him, and they go somewhere where he believes that he can't be. And so I just was like, oh my gosh, I have to create more playlists for my characters because this is so good. Like sitting down, and because I often struggle with transitions, right? Going from putting my kids to bed, then sitting down and being like, okay, I need to write now. And then I sit here for like 10, 15 minutes and just like nothing is happening. But there isn't anything that speaks to me quite as well as music does. I mean, it does this for everybody, right? But I get to sit
Right.
down and just be like, okay, I'm writing about this character today. Let me just pull up their album and just sit here, my eyes closed, my headphones on, and just like listen to their album for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And I'm feeling inspired. And I pause my album, I put on my normal like instrumental background music, and I'm good to go. I'm ready to go. It has been game changing. It's been so nice.
I while you guys were talking, I pulled up my playlist for my my story, and I realized it was empty. I've not added a single thing to it, but I made it like months ago. So now I'm feeling I need to do that too. I need to find it.
I think in a similar vein, this was actually something that Max and I tested out today.
Oh yeah, this is cool.
So something that we'll typically do is that Max and I will sit on the couch, especially if our son's napping, and what we'll do is we'll usually take that time to write. So today, I mean, usually we put on music in the background. I hate lo-fi music, but it's the only thing that Max will ever play. And lately, we've just been playing like
That's not true. I also played Doom.
the duality of men.
Lo-fi and Doom are not the same.
No. And so I think recently we've been listening to like it's a video and it's like music inspired by Pride and Prejudice, like you're walking through a field.
Okay.
So
Got like really bad like AI generated images in the background
horrible.
too.
Anyway.
It's great.
So I happened to just look up writing. And that was all I wrote down. So I was like, that was probably kind of a dumb thing to search. But then the first thing that came up it was called a writing sprint. And so basically the principle is it's a video, and so 4 times throughout the video, it'll do a 25-minute writing sprint. So during those 25 minutes, it'll play music, and you have to write for that entire 25 minutes, and then you get a 5-minute break. And then there's another 25-minute sprint, 5-minute break. 25-minute sprint, 5-minute break. And I had no idea how short 25 minutes is until we did that today.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try this now.
Yeah.
It's
So
sick.
the title of her stuff of the person's videos is immersive writing session. The one we watched earlier was called writing in a cozy old library during an autumn thunderstorm, and they have like images in the
Oh
background of
gosh.
that, a little bit of ambiance and a little bit of music.
So that would be probably my shout out for this week. Her name's Abby Emmons,
Yeah.
and it was incredible. She also like composes the music, like she writes the music that is playing during the session.
She got a couple of them too. This was one of the the less popular ones.
Yeah, so it's honestly awesome.
Because then it gives the great part was it gives you a little like almost like an alarm, a timer that goes off when the
Mhm.
25 minutes is up. And we looked at each other every time it went off. We're like,
I'm gonna keep writing.
I'm gonna keep writing during the break or whatever. But also like, wow, that was fast. Like, but if you're, I know the biggest piece of writing advice I've ever heard. And I say this because I heard it from every single writer I've ever asked or seen give a lecture is just write every day or write all the time.
But that makes it very doable.
Yes. Like, I always say, like, find what works for you 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. 25 minutes was nothing today. So,
So we were also talking about we should all just get together and sit and have one of these videos playing in the background, because during those 5-minute breaks we could just talk about
where
what
we're at,
the
and
experience
it's-
was like.
Mhm.
Something that I was thinking about this weekend that I actually really want to do with you guys is I want to have again, I don't know, an hour or two writing sesh where we drive up the canyon like on our way to Duck Creek, and then like just park like on the side of the road next to one of those scenic overlooks and just pull out some camping chairs and our laptops and just sit there.
Dude.
Big brain.
Okay, I have to tell you. We talked about this in, like, one of the first episodes about, like, how I love, like, the environment I write in, too. Like, going when we were, before we moved, I'd go to this coffee shop and write, and it was like the only time I could get writing done was because of the environment I was in. And I have been obsessed with the outdoors recently.
Yeah.
Like our trip up the canyon, like it just awakened something in me too, and it got me writing again. So I would love that. I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Okay.
You even have like a writing cam, you know, like how like zoos have like
Oh my gosh, that's so
lion
good.
cam or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we were watching Madagascar earlier, and as they're all leaving the zoo, Alex shouts out to them. Alex the lion shouts out, "Don't forget to watch the Elks cam. You know, you can watch me sleep."
I was like,
I still am waiting for you guys to greenlight the ASMR inkwell writing on like parchment in the middle of nature channel.
I mean, that's fine. We can do it. It's just who's gonna.
No. We can. Well, I'm not gonna do it because if it was my episodes, it would be like scratch, scratch, scratch. Oh, my wrist hurts. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Oh, man.
Sniffle, sniffle, cough, cough.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of stuff that Drew edits out of these episodes. Just sound.
Alrighty, we ready to talk about our word counts?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Hold
I'll
on.
go
Let me
first.
hold on. Let me total up my numbers here real quick.
Ooh, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Honestly, I could have written more today, and if I did, I would have secured my second place. But I don't know.
Your second place is secured. I promise you. I promise you it is secured.
1335 is my total this week. I wrote 200 words this week, and then today I wrote 1,100 words. So,
Dude, you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
session. It was a good session today, but I need to like kick it into gear and start doing it daily. I have tons of time to do it, especially when Jackson's asleep and napping. But
Okay,
You ready?
I got my numbers totaled here.
go for yours, Drew.
So it's embarrassing. This week I only did 380. Is bad.
Hey, it's not zero.
It's
not
not
zero.
It's not zero. True. Thank you for that reminder. Actually, I needed that.
It's not zero.
It's not even 100. It's 3 of those.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Leisha, let's hear it.
Okay.
Okay, I
So mind
she's
you,
been refusing to tell me all day.
mind you, before today, I was at a total of 345 words.
Wait, before today?
Before today,
I was at 345 words.
Okay.
Okay.
So we were at the same spot today, and I
Correct.
lost this badly. Oh
Correct.
no!
As of today, I hit 5,719 words.
Holy crap! That's a 5,000 word day.
Yeah.
She was at 3,200 words. At like, it was like an hour in or 2 hours in or something like
Holy crap! That is insane.
that. Yeah,
Yo,
It was
good
2
job.
hours.
Good job. Wow.
1,600 words an hour is crazy.
Yeah, I was chugging along. It was that's I think part of why it was so nice to figure out what I was doing, because it's gotten so much easier to write.
You know what's funny though is that this is only in the news story, right?
Correct.
So
Story-
if you look at the word counts for our stories, it looks like she has the least word count because it's all from today.
Yeah. So 345 were for the previous story.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that would be 5374.
That's crazy.
So
Wow. Good job. Jeez.
thanks.
Wow. Well,
What was your punishment idea, Drew?
oh yeah.
I don't want to say it now because I don't want to do it. My punishment
You don't have to do it, you
idea.
can put-
My punishment idea was gonna be the loser had to learn the soda pop dance and like Film it and post it.
man.
That
That's actually such a good punishment. Because it's the worst song in the movie.
whoa, do not slander soda pop. What?
I will slander Soda Pop. It is bottom of the
That is
barrel.
a
It the crap.
strong stance to take.
you're
No,
gonna
I
get
will-
canceled.
I am gonna get canceled now. I'm okay with that because every other song is better. You know what's growing on me is actually the first song.
Okay.
The,
First of all,
Alice Sun.
strategy is not better. Free is not better. Takedown is not better.
I don't like strategy.
I don't like strategy. Strategy's bad.
It's not bad. It's just not as good.
You're right. Takedown's growing on me a little bit. Free is way better. What are you talking about?
You don't like Free, Drew?
So free is Lacey Turret.
Okay. Do you guys want to guess what my favorite song is from that movie?
Your idol.
Your idol.
Your Idol 1,000,000%.
Yeah. So that was not hard.
It's like you guys know me or
what my favorite
something.
is? You know what my favorite is?
What? Is it
No,
golden?
yes, it's golden.
Holy.
I
Golden's
will say how
phenomenal. I will
done
give you
it-
that.
How it's done has grown on me a lot though.
Yeah, yo, that song kind of like slipped underneath the radar for me, but then I like I started rewatching the movie today, and I was
Which is so
watching.
crazy because. Sorry, go.
No, I was watching the opening scene, and I was like, "Hold on, this song kind of slaps." Actually, what?
Well, because they put freaking crack in like the second verse. It's like
Yeah, that's true.
the second verse is they just pop off.
Fit check and my napalm error.
Okay.
Anyway, that was a great ending to our podcast. So go watch K-pop Demon Hunters. Go listen to Haley Williams and
Write lots of words this week.
yeah, write lots of words. Write 5,000 words.
That's a wrap on today's chapter. Whether you're building kingdoms, cozy kitchens, or characters worth rooting for, keep writing, and we'll see you next time in the story.